what would prevent that? What would prevent that would be somehow having that chip not work unless it verifies that the DNA of the person in who it's been inserted matches the DNA of the chip. And then you would need the number of the man or the number of the person who had it in their hand. And there are ways to do that. In fact, I've got an interesting military document that talks about biological identifiers and military applications way far out there, projecting what they'll be able to do in like 2025. And that's one of the things they talk about, having the capability of doing real-time identifying DNA and making sure things match the right person. Now, the last part, his number is 603 score and 6. I just want to clarify a misconception out there. Again, I do not know what this number means. I don't claim to. But what I do know that it's not is it's not the number 6, meaning 6. The number 6 and the number 6. The original Greek in which this is written makes it very clear, using different characters because their numbering system is different from our numbering system, that that is 660 and 6. And I clarify that because there's been a lot of people who say, well, you know, the barcode has like six, you know, I don't know if it's barcodes or what, but I've heard people conjecturing there's 6 digits here, and then there's 6 digits here, and then there's 6 digits there. That looks like 666, so that might be the mark of the beast. And I would only caution you, as you're thinking about that, you got to be thinking 660 and 6, not 3 individual digits of 6. All right, now let's talk about what my grandmother told me way back in that kitchen many years ago about taking the mark of the beast, when I made a promise that I would tell my grandkids and their grandkids so my descendants someday wouldn't do it. Why not? Why not? They'd starve. They couldn't eat. In fact, they'll be beheaded, right? What happens to people who don't take the mark of the beast in this world isn't so good. But let's talk about what happens to people who do take the mark of the beast in this world. Let's fast forward a little bit through Revelation to the point where God comes down and begins passing judgment on the earth. Revelation 16:1, and I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the 7 angels, go your ways and pour out the vials of the wrath of God upon the earth. 16:2, and the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome, that means stinky, smelly, disgusting, a noisome and grievous sore upon those who had the mark of the beast and upon them which worshipped his image. So on the physical plane right here on earth, the people who take that thing are going to have a really bad experience. Now, what could that bad experience be? Well, it could be something solely spiritual, where God afflicts those people with a sore. Entirely possible. What could it be in the sort of technologically feasible realm right here and now? Well, think back to that little device. In fact, let me see if I can scan us back up here, and we'll take a look at this thing again. There we go. Okay. Imagine this device in someone's hand. The way this device works is it picks up teeny bits of electromagnetic energy beamed at it from a distance from a reader, and it amplifies them using that coiled antenna. Amplifies, makes bigger, expands, so it can feed that chip so the chip can feed back its information across a distance. Let's say that instead of sending it a normal amount of electromagnetic energy, you send it a big amount of electromagnetic. In fact, let's imagine that you burst a massive amount of electromagnetic energy at that device. What's going to happen? Well, if you take one of these RFID devices and you put it in your microwave, which is the equivalent of overloading it, it will burst into flames. I've done it. You put this in somebody's hand, embedded in their flesh, and you do that to it, first of all, that piece of metal copper will get that copper wire on there will get incredibly hot, because that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to pick up and amplify that energy. It would get so hot, in fact, that it would probably burst. And then you would have those shards of glass and burst molten metal inside of your hand. Not only that, but that electromagnetic energy that it would now be beaming out would be going right through your flesh. Boy, we're talking pain that would drop you to the ground, clutching your hand as it was destroyed. So if something like an electromagnetic pulse weapon, an EMP weapon, or let's say a megawatt of electromagnetic energy were beamed at one of these devices, or at a room full of people with these devices, or at a country full of people with these devices in them, they would all fall to the ground and probably have noisome and grievous sores in their hands or their foreheads as a result. So now that's on the physical realm, that's on the plane here. And again, I don't know what that means. That's just one possibility. If we're all embedded with these things, that would not look good if that energy came along. All right, Now let me tell you the spiritual thing that will happen to people who take the mark of the beast, and I think this is far more worrisome. Revelations 14, verses 9 through 11. If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tortured with fire and brimstone. God makes it very clear in the Bible that you are not to take the mark of the beast. In fact, that is probably the ultimate no-no. I think we can be forgiven for a lot of other things, and we have the grace of Jesus to allow that to happen. But I don't see any grace of Jesus rescuing these people in here. This passage is absolutely unmistakable. Now, the good news. If you don't take the mark of the beast, and if you're lucky enough to be beheaded for not taking the mark of the beast, if you're lucky enough to actually be killed because you don't take the mark of the beast, you get this great reward. Let's look at what the reward is. Chapter 20, verse 4. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given to them. And I saw the souls of them that had been beheaded for the witness of Jesus and for the word of God. And I guess I left out my next passage. Let's see, is it on the next? There we go. And which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, nor had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. Now, everybody else has to wait to the end of the 1,000 years, but these guys, they get it in real time. So when this mark comes, Christians are going to have a tough row to hoe here, because you're going to have to make a decision not to participate in something which everybody around you is going to be doing, which the whole world is going to be doing, and without which you're going to have a hard time. You're not going to be able to receive medical care. You're not going to be able to get an apartment or a house. You're not going to be able to buy food. It's rough. Even now, I consider myself to be kind of a canary in the coal mine in a way. They used to put canaries down in the coal mine because they would die before the miners if the air wasn't any good. Okay? Well, I'm kind of fading here a little bit because I do not use credit cards. And I pay everything with cash. And I do it as a way to kind of keep my finger to the pulse of what's happening with the retail world of buying and selling and seeing how much longer I'm going to be able to do that. And there's times when I can't. I also don't show ID. So when I check into hotels, I have to deal with song and dance. I had a prescription filled this week. And I had a big, long conversation about, they said, you've got to be in the system. So they put it, we got to put you in our system. I said, I don't want to be in your system. I have a valid prescription, and I'm a valid patient. And I wouldn't have this in my hand if it wasn't me. So things like that, we Christians need to be the canaries in the coal mine. Because if we can't handle a couple of setbacks now, what are we going to do when this comes? I mean, if we can't handle the inconvenience of paying cash for our groceries, you think we're going to handle the